This is the Raleigh Finance Committee meeting of March 12th, 2019. The time is 7:20 and we will be audio and visual recorded. And call the meeting to order. First order of business is a 7:15 appointment with Treasurer Collector Karen Summit.
Hello.
So it's all yours. Let's start with the debt.
Okay, so the debt basically is the debt. This year, we've got I borrowed $20 million for the police and fire and the Pine Grove. We had $10 million of borrowing last year that, we're now paying principal and interest on. And I anticipate I have another $135,000 of interest in there because we're going to have to do a third borrowing for Pine Grove School. The police and fire station borrowing has been completed. And we'll be, borrowing short-term to finish up the Pine Grove, and then once everything has been reimbursed by the MSBA, then we'll permanently borrow that. But for fiscal 20, we'll just have an interest payment in there. And 2020 will be the last year of payment for some of the projects that are, currently on the tax rolls. The fire truck will be coming off. The highway truck will be coming off. The landfill coming off, and then in 2021, the library will be paid off. So in terms of kind of the highest impact on the tax rate without relief, 2020 is probably going to be the worst year.
That capital equipment principle 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What is that? Is that just for things?
Right. That's we have like a capital request from all the departments, and then that's evaluated, and it's
all
basically
bundled together.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And last year we did the capital from free cash, so there wasn't a borrowing in fiscal 19.
Okay, that's good.
So the interest is going to more than triple from fiscal year 19 to 20.
Well,
right?
what happens is because of the timing of the borrowing, so we borrowed $20 million in July, and we would have normally had an interest payment in fiscal 19, but because we didn't have anything budgeted for it, we did a long coupon. So it's basically a whole year's worth of interest.
Okay. Is there any additional borrowing that's going forward, or do we have all the money for the school and the police?
No, there'll be one more borrowing, and if you look on the interest, there's $135,000 in interest. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a short-term ban. It may even be before the end of this fiscal year, so there'll be an interest payment. But we have to, before we can permanently borrow the rest of it, we have to get reimbursed by the MSBA before we permanently borrow.
Okay.
So that's why it's interest only, because we'll do it short term, and then once everything shakes out, we'll permanently borrow the balance.
And there's no issue here with like Prop 2.5 because these were voted by the
Correct.
taxpayers, right?
Yep.
Okay.
These are an override.
Overrides, right.
So.
And do you have any idea how much that will affect our tax rate in 20? At general?
It's about $1.26
Per thousand.
per thousand.
Okay.
And kind of, that's for the average household, which, the average assessed value, which is about $456,000. It's about $575.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
So, Karen, when is the, with the 2020, when will that show up in our taxes?
It will show up in just like it did this year, in the actual tax bill, which is the February and the May bills.
February, May bills.
Right.
So it's coming up, you mean
So
Yeah,
what
it's coming
what
up.
happens is, we have to, when the assessor is setting the tax rate for the year, they do what's called the recap. And what they do is they let the state know, how much we need to raise, both from our budget and from any overrides. And then that actual, tax rate gets set, because the first two are estimates based on the previous year. So what happens is that first year, it goes on the actual tax bills, which are the February and the May. Going forward after that, it'll be spread over the 4 quarters. Like this year, the $10 million was just on your February and your May tax bills,
Okay.
which is why, it looked like there was a really big jump. Because it was only spread over 2 quarters as opposed to 4.
Okay.
So then you'll see that, smooth out over the 4 quarters once that debt is on the bill.
Karen, could you just please repeat, what did you say the average assessment of
Oh,
of a
26.
property, 400 and something?
456.5,
456, thank you.
but that's based on the fiscal 19 tax rate.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
when it
right.
actually,
But that-
hits next year, it may be, up or
Higher,
down.
depending on the market.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
When do you expect the school building committee, school building committee to reimburse the town?
What happens is we submit to them monthly, so they reimburse us on a monthly basis.
So they do per month? Yeah.
Right, but in the end, they have a retainage, and they have to work out all that, and they have to work out any of the contingencies and reimbursement for those, and, it just, sometimes it takes a while.
It's a requirement that closes first before you go ahead
And permanently
Package the
borrow
fine, right.
the balance, yeah.
you can't use that to pay it off if you finance first.
No,
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we recommend the debt budget.
I'll second
Okay,
that.
have a motion and a second.
So is this amortized over 25 years or 2043?
Yeah, that's
You
25
said
from last
25?
year, yeah.
Okay.
right, what, actually, the way the debt is structured, it goes to about 22 years, and then there's kind of a bigger payment, but we'll just pay through the 25 years.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, any other questions?
No?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting the debt budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next item is treasurer collector budget.
All right, so the expenses for the treasurer are level funded. We have our regular expense lines, we have a tax title line, and we have a debt fees and charges line. Those are all level funded, no changes in that. The assistant treasurer salary is basically from the personnel study. And the administrative assistant is part of AFSMI, so that will be part of the AFSMI contract.
So that could change.
Right, excuse me. I do budget $400 extra for the administrative assistant, because there are times in the year that she has to work more hours, because the assistant treasurer collector and I will be, at a conference. And there's just times that she has to cover, and it's easier to put it in the budget than to have to try to transfer it every year.
Right.
She only works 16 hours a week, so, if we need her to cover on a day that she's not normally there, I mean,
You gotta pay
we've
it.
got to pay her,
Right,
and it's just easier to do it that way.
sure.
So, and I did a bit of a salary survey with treasurer collectors in the area that I felt were comparable with myself. Some treasurer collectors, have a finance director, so they pretty much do just treasurer collector work. Some treasurer collectors aren't certified. I've gone through 6 years of training to be a certified municipal collector and treasurer. And, I looked at other people, and I think the $90,000 is where I should be at this point in time.
Right.
So, I think I go beyond my treasure collector duties. I have helped the selectmen with a number of projects. I helped them with the cemetery task force, I've helped them with the water.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you also help out with the water department, with the fiscal team
Right.
and things like that, so it's, you doing a lot more than just,
And the
Treasure
school building
collector.
committee, so, I mean, I think
Exactly.
based on other towns that I looked at, I think that's a fair number.
okay, any questions, discussion further? Have a motion to accept the treasurer collector budget.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, budget is approved. Go on to information services.
And that is also level funded, the expenses. We don't have any in-house IS services, so we have a contract with PRS Group. And they, basically do any troubleshooting we have, any new installations. Where we've gotten pretty good about replacing equipment on a regular basis with, in terms of computers. We also try to keep some of the costs of installing new computers in our capital lines. But things, you can't predict when you're going to need that IS money, so you need to have it there. We've done some things like we have Wi-Fi in town hall. It used to be embarrassing. We'd have people come in and they'd say, "What's your Wi-Fi password?" And it's like, "Oh, we don't have Wi-Fi."
None.
Yeah, we have a town benefits fair upstairs in the spring for employees, and, it was like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, we don't have anything. So, and we've replaced the servers in town hall, so, it's been a very good relationship for the town. And then
But this
because-
basically, the expenses is totally external contracted services.
Yes, yep.
So we're at their mercy, so
Well,
to
not
speak.
necessarily, there's some equipment things, things that aren't big enough to be part of a capital project. If we need, battery backups, those big battery backups, if we need those because, we've had power failures and they don't work right. Those kind of things come out of IS too. Like the routers for the Wi-Fi come out of that, so it's not all labor. There are some other things that come out of that as well. But, it's mostly things that aren't big enough to be considered capital.
Now, is this just for the town hall, or does
No,
this,
no,
this
it's-
covers?
It's the town hall, the annex, the library, the police and fire departments, the highway department.
Yeah, it's for
Okay.
everything.
So it's pretty much everything except, water and light.
Right. I just wanted to make that point, that
Yeah.
it's not just this not little office, but not just this office, but a
Right.
lot of other people involved.
And who was the IS coordinator?
Sue Bailey and I
Okay.
are, because we don't have anybody here on staff. Someone's got to, coordinate when we need them, plan projects. I do capital planning with them, to
Okay.
figure out what we need to replace.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept the information services budget?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those, or any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Information services budget is approved. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
The next appointment is 5 or 6 different things that Patrick
Highway.
Snow does. Okay, Highway Department. Okay, Patrick, why don't you explain the highway department, and I see there's a,
There is an increase in the
Increase.
expenses for the highway department. We added the town land maintenance account in with the highway department's general expense account. The town land maintenance account, that maintain the mowing at the landfill and, any other small things over at the Girl Scout camp property, mowing and such. So basically, it's not that we will stop doing these, but it'll just go through the expenses for the highway department now instead of the town land maintenance account. The surveyor's salary, I increased 3% as a COLA. That was the same, I believe, as the tree wardens, which was about 3%.
What, this year?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's tree one, 4%, I think, right?
Oh, the highway surveyor, I just gave a 3% increase for a COLA. And, the wages, I did increase as well as added 2 positions, a truck driver laborer position, which would be full-time, and a full-time laborer's position as well.
okay.
Yeah,
They
there-
take care of 2 people that are sick or injured, right? I read somewhere.
Yeah, we had some shorthanded staffing with some, we had some long-term injuries with a few staff members. As of right now, we run with just 3.5 full-time staff members, 4.5 including myself. So 2 of those gentlemen go down, we're kind of very shorthanded. And the half person going between the highway department and the cemetery. So during the spring and summer, he spends the majority of his time over at the cemetery mowing and working over there.
But if the 2 injured people come back to work, will you,
They're back to work now.
They are,
Yes. So with this, we'd be at 5.5.
so this is an
But
increase
he-
yeah.
versus a replacement?
Yes.
Well, commensurate towns, it's about staff, about the same.
Yeah, with commensurate towns, it's even close to probably still being a little bit less, but it does get us a lot closer than what we've been.
No, I think it's long overdue that, we
Yeah, yeah, but-
increase the manpower at the highway department. Town's grown, there's more streets, there's more things to do, more responsibilities. And, I commend the department for doing, staying up to snuff with everything, with all
Yes,
the
they
things
do a
that they need to
remarkable
do.
job.
Right.
So that additional staff will be hopefully,
And
a plus for your department.
the town keeps adding things, like you do all the commons now, right?
Yes.
And that used to be a separate contractor that they would hire to mow the commons and everything, and now that's been put on the highway department, so they're doing a lot more work.
Yes, Dave.
Dave Peterson from the Selectmen. Just keep in mind that a number of years ago, through the budget crunch, we did not fill a vacancy, so the highway department's actually down a man from what they were a few years back. We would have to replace them with a few part-time people. These positions now are badly needed, so.
And
I
now that,
realize that we
this-
only had 3.5 people
Yeah.
in your department.
I think
mean,
last night you were saying that what, similar towns have like 5, 5.5?
5 to 6 guys, yeah, is about
Yeah, this is
the
So-
average I've heard.
Right.
But some of those towns have,
Right.
it's a
Okay.
public works, so they have different departments that they
Right.
cover too, But I mean, at least with this added staff now, I know I was supportive of putting the cemetery, getting half-time cemetery and highway, and that, I think that worked out pretty good.
Yes, it's been working very
Because,
well.
in this winter time, you need more help. Summertime, they need more help. Now with these extra 2 people, I'm sure that, you'll kind of, if the cemetery needs more work for some reason, you'll be able to do that. So
Yes.
it's becoming more of an unofficial public works, and I know I was on a committee trying to get a public works, but it didn't seem to go through. Maybe in the future, maybe we might want to look at revisiting that, because I think that, again, you can get a qualified person, it's an elected position, and, there's no qualifications to have a highway surveyor, but, we're becoming more intermingled now
Yes.
with other departments, and so we might want to look at that, but.
I wondered if it would be cheaper to have a contract with some, to get, or is it, because you have to hire somebody, you're paying them.
If we were to hire contracted labor, we'd probably be paying more because of the prevailing wages. If we were to hire in job by job basis.
So with the people, when you have the snow removal, is that mostly contractual? Or is
That's
it like-
it's done with staff members and it's done with contracted personnel, but with the state law that we are exempt from prevailing wage rates. We set our own rates for
Yeah,
contracts.
you're union, so
Yes.
that's oversees that. Now, the wages that you're giving them are comparable to the positions, like Ron's, position there was, I don't know what step he was on.
Ron's step, because due to his tenure here, his step
Yeah.
was higher, so that wage actually decreased because
So
this
you go
person
back to
was
the
going.
beginning, but on that
Yes.
same level,
Right.
grade or whatever it
Yep.
is. Okay, it'd be grade one, I mean, step one versus,
I believe that position's
higher.
that position's a
New
grade 10.
Yeah, it'll be a new higher rate.
Yeah,
okay.
at a new higher rate.
So that maybe the snow might be less expensive if you're saying that you're saying that people, the staff are cheaper than.
Yes, yeah, we
for-
would be using less contractors in that case, yes.
I was really surprised to see how many miles of road that you guys have to, just under 51 miles of roads in the town. I never would have guessed that.
Start driving around them, you'll
Yeah.
see, yep, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
they cover a lot of territory, do a good job too.
Thank you.
Just remember when you're plowing
what you
snow, it's
have.
double that.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
it's 2 lanes sometimes, depending on the width of the road. It can be 3 or 4.
Yeah, when we used to try to get money back from FEMA, we'd always try to tell them, it's not 55, it's 110, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, because you go up and you come back down
Yeah.
again.
Right. Dave?
Just keep in mind that, right now we've been sharing, as a cemetery commissioner, we've been sharing the half-time position, like Pat said, half highway, half cemetery. It's worked out extremely well. With Ron leaving, I'm not sure what's gonna happen as far as the new person being appointed, but I think in the longer run, we're really looking at, combining some activities with the cemetery, the parks and rec, and the highway, because it's really, the town's growing, and we're at the point where it's very difficult today to get part-time people, because the economy's good, everybody's working, and to find people that work 20 hours a week and be good laborers is tough to find. So keep in mind, as we move forward in the next couple of years, I think that we really should be looking for a combination. Like Dennis said, we tried a few years ago to get the position appointed rather than hired. We would have at that time moved for a public works department, which I strongly support too. I think we should have, the taxpayers didn't vote for it, but we really need that to happen, because it's the most efficient way to get some of these activities done now that we're doing on a part-time basis. And like Pat says, in the summertime, we get the cemetery guy more, and in the wintertime, he gets the guy more. So it's working out fine. I don't know how it'll work out in the future, but these are the kinds of issues that we're facing as we grow and expand, and more services are required, so.
I don't think that the general public understands the requirements for these jobs, because the knowledge you have to run these departments is incredible, and they just, anybody can run and take over these jobs and not have a clue as to what they're doing.
Well, last night, we voted to put a ballot question on again for the treasurer's
Yeah,
position.
I think it should be the
Right now,
town
you
clerk
only have to
and
be
the
a
highway
taxpayer.
again
There's
too.
no requirements to have any kind of degrees to be the treasurer collector, so it's imperative that we get a good qualified treasurer. We had a good one before, but.
But we've
if
also
when
had
she
bad
decides
ones.
to leave, anybody can run, whether they're qualified or not. Obviously, with the kind of budget we have and the issues we're dealing with, we need someone that's qualified, so we'll be looking to get that appointed from, at the election time, so hopefully it'll go through. It failed a few years ago by a few votes, and we're hoping that we can convince people that it's a big corporation now, we're a big town.
Town clerk has a lot of
Yeah, the
responsibilities.
town clerk, the highway surveyor, and the treasurer are the three positions.
They
that
really
are
need to
elected,
be
and
appointed.
We need as much expertise as we can get in each one of those positions, and I'm not knocking the people that are in the positions now.
So I remember
As we move ahead, we need to take a look at it.
Remember a few years ago, there was a man that was running against Scott, and he had this idea in his head that he would just get this salary and still run his own business and just kind of let the department take care of itself. And that's not the way it works. You have to work very, very hard, and a lot of hours.
Yes.
In these new positions that we're proposing here, is there a possibility of maybe negotiating with the union to change the job description to include cemetery work, in
We got the
general?
agreement, we don't need more than a half a person. I'm not sure exactly I was on
That's
the
already in
cemetery
the
board.
contract right now. So,
For what, the current
cemetery-
position,
yeah,
right?
the current is, and, there's been no request by the highway for any modifications. I'm in negotiations.
No, but I mean, if these two new people are coming, or one and a half coming on board, if they know that their job description does include potential cemetery, you know, you can move them back and forth, even though you don't need them.
Part of the
but-
problem, Dennis, is it's not that simple, because one reason why Larry's worked out so well in the cemetery is he deals with funeral homes, the vault company that digs the graves. There's a lot of management type work that a lot of people that maybe want to be highway workers aren't going to be capable of doing. It's kind of a unique position.
Yeah, but I'm looking at labor, you know, not
Yeah.
necessarily.
I think what Dennis is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what he's saying is, say the person that, as of right now, who Larry is with what he's doing, if he needed an extra set of hands,
Yeah.
so that person could
As
go
a
over
la-
from
you
the
know,
highway
low
department.
scale.
That exists now.
Yeah, that
We do that unspokenly, yeah, the
Yeah.
guys are very good about helping each other out,
And
yeah.
don't forget, the cemetery has roads that those roads are considered town roads in the cemetery, and they do go out and provide
Yeah,
assistance
we've helped
from,
out.
Yeah,
you know, patch.
I just wanna make sure the union, you know,
I think you just to cover ourselves,
Yeah.
yes, I see what you're saying.
get more bang for the buck. so to
Right.
speak, yeah.
Scott, on your expense online here, you've got materials, what's that?
So-
Dirt and
it's all the
road
same.
fill and
Now,
stuff?
that's for the roadways, that would be, hot top, pack, gravel, dirt, things along those lines.
Is it cheaper, it must be cheaper to maintain, because you have a lot of roads that aren't wide enough, so they don't conform, so they're just like gravel. Is this, you know?
We only
something-
have, we only have 4 dirt roads in town that we maintain.
Really, I thought there were more than that. There was,
If they,
A lot
they're,
of-
other than that, they're all Stackyard, Patmos,
West
Redgate,
Oaks.
and West Ox Pasture are the only 4 that we,
Of public roads.
right.
so some of them are private, and they have
Yes,
long,
yeah.
windy roads and.
And with state law, we're allowed to plow some of those private
The
roads.
town in
but
the
we can't-
sixties accepted a statute
Yeah,
and voted at a ballot question to
but we
allow
can't,
that.
grade them or maintain them that way. All we can strictly do is provide snow and
Snow
ice,
removal,
snow and ice
yeah.
services for them.
Okay, any other questions? Since this was, given to us tonight, if anybody wants to table this until next week,
Mr. Chairman, I emailed that Sunday.
Yeah, no,
We
I-
we had
had
this,
this.
it's just the tree part that's,
I have a
No.
revised
Oh,
tree, but
okay.
it's a minor
minor,
modification.
yeah,
Yeah,
all
You
right?
have this, Larry.
yeah.
I didn't, but, okay, so that's my fault.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I got them at 10 minutes to 7 yesterday morning,
Yeah, because Teresa did it.
Okay.
and I thought
I'll
she was
second.
really awake early in the morning.
all right. My mistake, excuse me. That's even better. Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second? Any other discussion? All those in
Can I make a
favor?
comment? This is just one example. Sugar maple tree on the same side of the street as 89 Central Street needs some attention.
Yeah, we're
Just
not
one
on the,
example,
we're
right?
not on the trees yet.
All right, well, I'll make this statement anyway.
No, you won't. Just wait until the trees and we'll
Besides, we're
recognize
closing
you.
it off.
All those in favor of the Highway Department budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Budget is approved. I have to check my email more. Snow and ice removal. That was
For snow and ice, I've increased it from 175,000 to 185,000 for the selectmen's request, which we've been doing over the years now.
You did that again last night.
No, we-
Attached to the highway.
Highway?
It's the last page of the highway, thank you.
Right.
what's Stone Age?
Yeah.
It's all.
I had a
Right.
comment on that, Patrick.
Okay.
If I can find that page. You said the highway?
Snow and ice.
Yeah, it's
The
second.
snow and
Oh,
ice
okay,
is
I
second
got-
to the last
I
page.
think if you look at the chart, you have from fiscal year 19 to 20, you have a 22% decrease, and then 50,000, minus 50,625. I think that should say for fiscal year 18 to 19 is a minus 22% decrease, and from 19 to 20, it's a 5.7%
Yes.
increase of 10,000.
That's correct, the formula in the cell was.
It's a year,
Yeah,
yeah, so that, those last two columns have to be updated.
Okay.
But also, we have no idea yet what we're gonna be using for the whole year, this year. on
Right,
snow
I
and
understand, but
ice.
I'm just saying, as the chart
Right.
is here,
Yeah.
it's
No, I can
incorrect.
adjust that, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry
Okay,
about that.
no problem, just wanted to point it out. That was the only comment I had on that.
Okay, any other comments on snow and ice removal?
I'll make a motion that we recommend it.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion on snow and ice removal?
No?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is trees.
Tree, and we have
Oh, the revised one's coming out.
so we have the revised one, right? It's right here.
Just the one here? That's it?
No, they've revised it, it's right here.
Got it.
The warden salary was increased 4%, as recommended by the personnel board. And the expense line was level funded at 15,000.
So the 15,000 is all you got for the whole year for tree maintenance, right?
Yeah, well, this last year, I believe, I'll let Dave take it from there.
Well, we're looking to see what we have for free cash. We're hoping to, last year we appropriated the extra 50,000, which was
Yeah.
used to cut the dead trees on, mostly on Havel Street, a little bit further than that. This year, I'm hoping, depending on the free cash, et cetera, we're gonna try and do another 50. I'd like to do 100, but basically get most of the town at least another 50, or whatever we can afford
Yeah.
to further cut dead trees, because there are dead trees all over all the streets in town, and it's just important. And we kept the 15,000 in the tree warden's budget for maintenance of individual trees that he comes across during the year, because there's always trees that have a problem, whatever, that gives him some ability to trim those, but hopefully we'll be able to get some money to.
And the selectmen keep that as
Cut that.
one of their priorities, if they have extra money to put, as much as they can into
Yeah.
that, because trees are always a problem.
They're a disaster right
Yeah.
now. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got Havel Street is pretty well done. We did a good job with that with the contractor, and I hope we'll have money to continue doing that, because that's a safety issue for vehicles and pedestrians.
Okay, any other on the tree warden? Can I have a
I'll make
motion?
Second that.
Any other
Chairman, I'd
discussion
like
on
my
it?
comment recorded on that.
No, your comment is not pertinent to the budget.
I say it is, because of an
It
example of.
is not, it's a particular tree and
Yeah.
potholes, we're not into that.
I'm like Henry Wall, 13 Plantation Drive, I'd like to make a comment. This was school opening 2 Labor Days ago, just after that. Many people were walking to school. It was a very nice day, mothers, kids. And after that, I went out and walked on that sidewalk, and there was a chunk of limb that long that had fallen from the tree right to the sidewalk. All right? I mentioned it to 2 tree department workers who were working nearby around that time, and they said they didn't have the money or the help to take care of trees like that. It's a very dangerous situation. It's one of many in town.
Well, we're not into
Was that on Main
specifics, this is a budget meeting
All right, well,
for
budget
the
for that
tree,
tree then.
and thank you, but that's the end of your comment.
Is that on
Moving right along, have a 7:45 appointment with Conservation. Thank you very
Thank you all
much, Pat.
very much.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you.
Brent Bazelak to discuss the Conservation
Chairman, you
Commission.
call the vote. Usually the-
Oh, yeah, we did it.
Yeah, we did.
We had the motion.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay,
you got the
tree-
hot seat now.
Okay.
Softer than my desk chair.
All right, Brent, take us through your budget. What do you have for us?
Assuming we're starting on page 1, or Form 1, we have wages and salaries of Concom agent. Due to, I believe, as a result of the competitive salary survey conducted by the Personnel Board, recommendation was to increase the annual salary for the agent myself. That increase is 5.881, or 10.2%. Excuse me, 5,088.1, 10.2%. I believe there's also the longevity payment entering 15 years of service, so I believe that's in that calculation also. So it's not entirely the result of the competitive personnel survey by the Personnel Board. Second line item is the Conservation Commission Secretary. The line item on Form 1 represents 10 hours of the Secretary's position. That is funded, the request for funding of that is from the general fund. The Conservation Commission, through their utilization of the Wetlands Protection Act Notice of Intent funds, when this position was restaffed a couple of years ago, the Commission voted to contribute 6 hours out of the dedicated Wetlands Protection Act funds, which are predicated and only allowed to be utilized for state Wetlands Protection Act administration and enforcement. And that's the reason for the selection of 6 hours out of the 16 hours, because that's the time that we believe we can legitimately and reasonably say is devoted to state Wetlands Protection Act. The Conservation Office has other responsibilities. Our town's wetlands bylaw, our town's stormwater and erosion control bylaw, which the Commission is the permit granting authority for both of those bylaws, as well as we have other duties on a day-to-day basis. We're continually called to respond to inquiries from realtors, from property owners, and those requests can run the gamut of, are there wetlands on my property, to issues involving now the new thing of stormwater and management of stormwater as a indirect cause of pollution and negative impacts to our water quality. So there's a range of gamuts, as well as the Conservation Commission also has stewardship responsibilities for our conservation areas and open space. And we've made a concerted effort, since those service all the citizens, or at least we try to make them available to service all the citizens of the town, since many CPA dollars have been invested in preserving some of the most gorgeous properties and environmentally sensitive properties here in town. We also take stewardship responsibilities seriously and try to maintain the trails and provide access to the public so they can see how their dollars have been wisely invested in natural resource protection. Wide-ranging answer. Sorry.
Yes.
I'd just like to say, I live just 5 minutes walk from the Dodge Reservation, and I have spent many hours in there walking my dog. Just taking, it's a beautiful piece of land. I think someday as the town grows and develops, it's in the heart of Raleigh, and it's going to be kind of like a rustic version of a Central Park. And I have seen Brent working in that park, in the reservation, a number of times, working on the trails by himself and doing various things. And he's very, very dedicated to making this a real special place for the citizens of the town. And I think he does a great job in helping to maintain that. The trails are looking really good. I haven't been in there since it snowed, but I've been in there, I think, hundreds of times, because like I said, I live just down the street.
Your backyard.
So, yeah. And it beats walking on the Weathersfield Street, which is getting busier and busier with traffic, so it's a nice, quiet, secluded place to get in touch with nature. And it's a beautiful piece of property, and I know that Brent is very dedicated to, maintaining the trails, fixing them up. I appreciate his efforts.
Are you have anything to do at all with the growth, the Y piece about the pool and stuff? You know, the swimming pool that they're saying that a lot of people in town were saying that it wasn't open a lot of times, that they, I don't think you have anything to do with that.
No, no, but I am going to make a plug for the cooperation and the spirit and the services that the North Shore YMCA, by being the leaseholder of that facility, has been an absolutely marriage made in heaven, if I can say that in a sense, because that aspect of the camp, municipalities have a hard time taking care of structures that aren't dedicated to a specific municipal service. And it was a very good stroke of cooperative arrangement and a collaborative agreement, whereas they took over maintenance and care of that. We interact quite regularly. They have questions sometimes on projects they want to undertake in terms of various things they want to do. Recently, they resurfaced the basketball court out there. They consulted with us. They're actually under no particular obligation to do that because of a lot of the facilities in the camp are not within regulated wetland resource areas or buffer zones. But we have a very good cooperative arrangement. And it's also, thank you for your kind words. Those are my volunteer hours.
Right.
To the community, although sometimes I do go out there on a employee basis to, again, monitor and make sure the property is safe and accessible. And the camp also utilizes the former ball field that the Girl Scouts called Windy Meadows, which is within the open space property. So there's a good cross-fertilization and a good cooperative stewardship arrangement that goes on there.
Now, do they need to interface with any other department, like planning or
highway?
Okay.
And the health department, they do have, in maintaining the facilities there, they also have subsurface sewage disposal systems that they need to maintain. Part of their accreditation for the camp is they also rely upon inspections to verify their standards and health and safety of the summer campers and stuff. And so, yes, they interact on a regular basis with other town departments also.
There's a caretaker who's...
Mr. Brown.
And Mr. Brown, does he work with...
He's employed, I believe, by the Y. Is that correct? Yes. He's employed by the Y, and his occupancy of the residence there sort of provides 24-hour presence. And he also, many times, he'll come over, and until he recognizes me, he hasn't gotten used to my new vehicle. So he'll see the vehicle parked, and he'll come over, and I see him peering at me, and I'm like, it's me.
When you provide assistance to realtors, is that a free service or a for fee service?
Usually it's the terms of an inquiry in regards to do we have a record, has there been permitting that shows there's regulated wetland resource areas on the property, or some properties that are foreclosed. When they're foreclosed upon, they don't, apparently the realtors that then handle them don't have a lot of background information, so they may ask whether if someone's planning to upgrade or remodel that, whether they might need to check with the conservation department if they're...
General assist rather
Yeah. So Debbie had a good term for it today, constituent services.
That's a mouthful.
It is.
The word you're going to hear a lot of soon, constituent.
What does NOI stand for?
Notice of intent, which is a particular type of application filed under the Wetlands Protection Act. It's
So that's only for the secretary position?
in regards of the specific dedication of funds, yes, but those funds are also utilized because they can be used for administration and enforcement of state wetlands protection law. I will utilize them for mailing out of permits that are specifically Wetlands Protection Act permits. In other words, if I have a bylaw permit, such as the stormwater bylaw, I will mail that out and use the regular expense line. But if I have an order of conditions that's issued in response to a notice of intent application, I will use Wetlands Protection Act funds for that. I try to judiciously utilize and capitalize upon the various funding pools. It's how I'm able to level fund my expense line, which I don't believe has changed in the 14 years.
$1,050.
Well, it's
I think that's the lowest one other than historic.
There's an actual $2,042.
Well, yes,
18 years.
yeah.
You mean he didn't spend the whole thing? Oh,
Wasn't able to get to the post office and get the 4 or 5 49-cent stamps or whatever.
yeah.
Okay, have a motion to accept the Conservation Commission budget.
I'll make a motion.
Say I second it. Or you second
Okay, second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Conservation Commission budget is approved. Thank you very much, Brent.
Very much.
We appreciate it.
Now, in our cooperation with the Open Space Committee and in conjunction with the North Shore YMCA, we are sponsoring an Earth Day event that will be occurring out on the Dodge Reservation that has a combination of some trail work and later on that day a community trail walk. And during the middle of the day, there's going to be various vendor tables, and the YMCA is going to specifically target healthy kids activities or whatever, and various camp buildings will be open. We hope to have music and have some other folks there with various information. So I'd like to extend an invitation for you folks, if you can possibly keep that on your radar.
What's the date?
April 22nd, I believe. It should be a Saturday. And if you get an electric bill, you should get a flyer in your electric bill announcing. But as always, the trails are open. We do try to keep the trails free and clear and safe. But we also appreciate if anyone is walking the trails and they see a downed tree or whatever, to let me know. I've never gotten a call from a tree that says, "Help, I've fallen down, please get me."
It doesn't have the I've fallen and can't get up button, no.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
I
thank you
appreciate
very
your
much.
consideration tonight.
Okay. Next up is Frank Marciani for the Health Services.
Yes, hi.
Greetings.
Let's see, I guess we can start on Form 1 with the salaries. We follow the FY20 compensation schedule. We have no union employees, and we also have no contractors, meaning everything is done in-house, all the inspections. We don't sub any of that stuff out. Pretty straightforward, unless you have any questions.
Okay, I've reviewed everything. I didn't have any questions.
No, I didn't either.
I did.
We can't let them get off that easy.
Well, our expense line, the only other piece, the expense line, which was level funded again. Not really much change there. You know, again, pretty self-explanatory. The only difference, wanted to know, we did move a little bit of money to a new line called tobacco control. This past year, we updated our local tobacco regulations to increase the age to 21 rather than staggering them over the 3 years that is coming up that the state approved. And we also expanded the definition to include vaping products, which is becoming a huge problem in the schools today. So we put that in there. Well, let me back up a little bit. You also don't see tobacco control, and we collaborate with 17 other towns in the district, let me see if I get the name right. We're part of the Healthy Communities Tobacco Control Program. And what it is, all of the towns go in together and apply for a grant. And fortunately, we've been able to get that grant over the last several years. And that funds a person to provide education, do compliance checks, talk to the retailers, keep us up to date on what's going on with the products and how the new products that are coming out that we should be aware of. They assist with updating our regulations, which, again, we just did back in December.
Does that include this vaping?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too, whether your thing includes like the opioid, quote, epidemic,
Yeah,
unquote.
not so much that, more
Vaping.
just the vaping. Yeah, we do
Okay.
work with the police and trying to, you know, it's just a huge problem. But this is more
But
for
it
tobacco.
doesn't affect your department directly?
No, not with.
Okay.
So we put that a little extra money there, just, well, again, it's level funded, but we just shifted a little money. So if we wanted to do additional compliance checks, with this grant, it allows us to do 1 or 2 a year. But now that we changed the age and we're testing the waters with the vaping products, if we were having a problem with an establishment, if we wanted to do additional checks, we would have to pay for it ourselves. So this just gives us a little bit of money. It was $150 just to cover some of that expense. We may not do it depending on how the checks go. But
Will this be affected by when the marijuana places open up?
no, that's all state license, so we work with the Department of Public Health on that, but we don't actually license those establishments.
So your department has nothing to do with the marijuana?
Well, we participate in, you know, the establishments that want to come in and talk to them about what they're doing, but we really don't do
really the
compliance
state.
checks. Yeah, it's more state and police that are looking at
In
that.
fact, Paul, when the retail marijuana was adopted, you know, they had the referendum and the town of Raleigh voted it in. They took it out of DPH and moved it all to the Cannabis Control
Yeah.
Commission. It used to be under the State Department of Public Health, so there was a little bit of communication between the state health agency and the local boards of health, but now that's all under Cannabis Control Commission, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Retail, you know, just the regular retail and the medical.
Yeah, we honestly don't really hear too much from the CCC about, you know, things that are happening.
It's kind of independent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Title V assistance fund, is that still
Yep.
healthy or?
Yep, actually, yeah, we, as you know, we borrowed $1,250,000 about 20 years, well, over the 20
Yeah.
years. And I believe we processed about 96 loans over those years. I was just actually looking at it today. About 48 are still active and about 48 have been paid in full. And that's just one big revolving fund, money in, money out. Still at the 2%, 20 years, no penalty for paying off early. But there's certain parameters. It has to be a failed system. It has to be a residential property. It can't be a commercial property. It's a great way to help people fix their systems and get a loan at a reasonable rate, and it goes right on your tax bill, and it gets spread out through the 4 quarters. So yeah, that's still alive, and we won't be borrowing any more money. We're working with the treasurer on just managing what we have. Over the years, we didn't have to pay any interest on that money we borrowed. We just had to pay back the principal, which we're still doing. But I believe, we haven't checked in a while, but they were talking about charging 1% to loan this money to the town. So at that point, we said, all right, we're not borrowing anymore. We're just going to manage what we have. You know, as people pay off, money's continuously coming into the system.
It's a revolving account.
So we haven't had any problems where we had to turn anybody away. And we don't get too selective about, you know, income and things like that. The money's there, so if you have a failed system, we try to help them.
How many Title V permits do you say you issue this past?
Ooh, geez, between new construction and repair, geez, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but we are 100%.
But is the number steady, or does it go up and down every year?
We're talking about the loan or just in general?
No, in general,
general.
just the permits themselves.
It's usually a couple a week anyway, because we're doing new construction and repairs. Of course, the winter time is a little bit quieter, but there's been a lot of new construction, as you know, going on. But repairs just happen year round. You know, people try to sell the house, they get a failed Title V inspection, they have to fix it. So, but yeah, it's probably a
But
couple
years
of
ago,
weeks.
they had part-time person to do that, right? So you have to, because the person used to split their time, I think, between Raleigh and, was it
Going way,
Georgetown?
way
Going-
back,
Well, I
maybe,
know, gotta go
yeah.
way, but I'm just, so what has changed over the years in the department to make it
Oh.
more, a lot,
A lot has changed. We, as you know, Raleigh's 100% septic, so we have to deal with no sewer at all, so everything comes to us. Whether it's new construction or repair, commercial, residential, everything. We have 40-plus food establishments, believe it or not. That's including stores and restaurants and mobile units, flea markets, all these things. We permit all private water drinking wells. We administer a septic loan program. We do mosquito control. We do housing complaints. We do, oh God, summer camps, tanning, tobacco control. It just goes on and on and on. I mean, obviously we're not doing all this stuff every single day, but
yeah.
spread it out. And it's really basically two people. We have one person in the office. Majority of the time is spent answering the phone, going to the counter, and responding to emails. And then some of that time is spent out in the field helping with some of these inspections. Like I said, we don't have any contractors helping us with inspections. We have to do all the food inspections, the septic inspections, plan reviews, perk tests, summer camps, public swimming pools, again, tanning, tobacco, all these things. So it takes a lot of time. We do have one agent that works 8 hours a week to help us with some of the perk testing and plan reviews. Basically, we go week to week and see what's on in front of us at the moment, and we try to say, look, can you help us with this perk test today, or look at this plan, and we'll pick up the rest. So that kind of goes week to week. And our nurse only works 4 hours a week. The only thing she really does is track the reportable illnesses that come in through the state. That's when we get a lab report. When if someone's sick and they go to the hospital or the doctor, they get a report. And if it's a communicable disease. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. She needs to do an investigation and follow up and work with DPH to make sure this person isn't infecting other people. We have to see where they work, whether it's a school or a daycare or a restaurant, and again, she does that investigation and works with the state. So that's pretty much all. She doesn't have time, unfortunately, to help out in the office and with that. So it's just a constant juggling act of trying to manage everything, do the best we can.
The flu clinics.
Oh yeah, the flu clinics. Yeah, we do flu clinics.
Right.
We do special waste collection events.
Work with the senior center.
Yeah, we work with the senior center. Work with Triad. We work with on so many committees I've lost track of all of them. But we can't get to all of them. Oh, emergency planning. That's another thing. If there is a problem, some type of outbreak, we have to be able to vaccinate or give pills to 100% of the community within 48 hours. So we work on developing an emergency dispensing site at Pine Grove School. And that's an ongoing, continuous plan update.
Right.
Yeah, so it's...
You're busy.
Sounds like you got a lot of things, but what's the biggest thing that's changed, would you say, over the years?
The regulations, the additional regulations and laws that have come up, and the unfunded mandates. But there's just a lot more building, a lot more activity in town, a lot more businesses.
A lot more people.
A lot more people, exactly. The more the population grows, the more work comes into us. So it's, but again, every time the state adopts a new regulation, we have to find someone or some time to enforce it, which gets very challenging.
Frank, on those septic loans, how do they get protected? You become
Yeah.
a lien holder or?
We have, there's two documents. One, there's an agreement that we draw up with the owner and we sign. Basically, it's a lot of legal language, but basically it's saying that we're going to lend you the money, you're going to pay us back, you're not going to sue us. And we have another document that gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds, so if the house gets sold, they find that there's we don't want to call it a lien, but a betterment on the property. Right. So they'll contact the town to find out what they owe the town, the money's collected, and the house can be sold.
Does that have any kind of priority above, let's say it's a credit card, or does that move up the list, or does it just get thrown into the pot? As far as paying off all these debts, if there's multiple liens, does it have any priority at all?
Yes, it is up at the top portion of the list. I can't tell you the exact order, but I know it comes, the treasurer was explaining this to me one day in the order of payoff. I think it's second or third on the list, I believe. But in order to close, the town will definitely get their money back. And some people just pay off early, or they pay a little extra every year without selling their house. But most of the time, the house is sold. And
So
they
you
get
got
their
more
money.
crossover with conservation, because there are things like
Yep.
groundwater and stuff like that,
Mhm.
that seem like it could be both.
We work a lot.
And
Actually, there's
how
a
do you work like with someone like that? I mean, how do you determine, do you guys step on each other's toes and
No,
stuff
but there
like
is a
that?
lot of overlap. Like with the perk testing, we get an application, it has to be reviewed by Conservation Commission, or any septic installation to make
Right.
sure it's not in a bordering wetland. And they ask them to do certain things, or have to get a permit, things like that. And there's a lot of overlap with the building inspector, with housing, and all sorts of other issues.
Like, what's the story with that gas station over in the corner that has been closed for like 4
Yeah.
years now, and I don't know what's there's a gate there, fence and
Yeah.
everything, what's going on with
I haven't
They
heard
want-
anything.
They want 1.8 million for the piece of property, and they're not selling, it's not selling.
And they have to get it cleaned up too, right?
It's all clean.
It's all clean now? Oh.
It's been cleaned, it's just, nobody wants to pay 1.8 million, then have to put another $1 million into a building and then try to make money.
Yeah, let's try to keep it on to the budget. Okay, any other questions on the health department? Okay, can I have a motion to accept the health department budget?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion on the budget? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, now we go to Agricultural Commission.
What did you say, the commission?
Agricultural Commission? It's in one of our other handouts.
These piles, yeah.
Make a motion that we accept agriculture, level funded, don't see any drastic changes there.
Yeah,
No, it's only 2,500.
yeah, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion relevant to the Agricultural Commission budget? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Agricultural Commission budget is approved. Animal Inspector, as opposed to Animal Control Officer. Yeah,
The
okay.
animal inspector. Okay,
Expenses level funded.
no, they're
Oh,
separate.
separate, okay.
Animal inspector.
And
I'll make a
inspector.
motion that we recommend.
I have a motion for approval and a second. Any other discussion on the animal inspector budget? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Animal inspector budget is approved. Animal control officer is next.
Turn the deal.
Make a motion that we recommend animal control officer.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
That's the same as the animal inspector?
No, animal control officer
It's
is,
a different one, okay.
Yeah.
should be right next to it, either in front of it or back of it.
The discussion on the fuel between Georgetown, that doesn't affect us at all, does it?
No. It's- I remember when the
Oh, here it is.
animal control officer used to get
Why
a
is it
dollar a
different?
day. Leap year, he got an extra $1. That's how the budget is.
So if we ever lose Reed, good luck getting.
I know, getting someone for even, this is,
Animal, so animal control picks up the dead animals on the roadside, is that what?
Dogs.
the dogs.
Anybody
yes.
handles dog complaints and
And what is
all
the,
those kinds of, any animal complaints. And he
What about
checks
the
between the two positions, he checks the barns.
Animal inspectors appointed by the state, nominated by the board of selectmen, actually, so the appointee is required. So they track the rabies, any rabbit bites, things like that, the freezer back here, that little building, out in the end of the
okay.
parking lot, he oversees that, the freezer, so. They're different job duties.
Right.
Because, you know, one is a statutory position, they do the barn book, filed with the Bureau of Animal Health at the Department of Food and Agriculture. So that has to be done, he has to walk around, check every kind of farm animal, llamas or horses and ponies, and check every
Emus.
barn. And then he also, Frank didn't mention, the health department has the stable permits, they used to be under the selectmen. They were moved to the health department, so he works with the health department and does the stable permit renewals. 4 or more horses require a stable permit by the health department. So he has to count, make sure they have adequate space in the stalls, things like that.
Okay, any other discussion on animal control? All those in favor of the animal control budget?
Motion, do we?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the animal control budget signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, the animal control officer budget is approved. Parks and Recreation. Should be easier, I'm running out of stuff.
Parks and Rec, we just basically, used to be field maintenance and expenses, it's all gone into one line now, just to make it ease of. No need to keep.
Oh, I see what you've done, yeah.
One page.
Yeah, I've got ADA compliance, there it is.
You got it. And it's level funded from the year before.
So the expenses and field maintenance expense is gonna be the same as 19 for 20? Or is it just,
Yeah, it's the same, it's just
Same.
combined
Okay.
They
into
just
one line.
made it one line, yeah.
We've done in a couple other budgets recently.
okay. All right. Yeah, can I have a motion to accept Parks and Recreation?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? Parks and Recreation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Parks and Recreation budget is accepted. ADA compliance. Whoa,
It's a rough one.
yes.
190.
What's this for?
do we have a breakdown on that?
I don't know. I mean, it probably was a different form.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the ADA compliance budget?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
You have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on ADA compliance budget? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Budget is approved. Historic Commission.
I'll make a motion to recommend the Historic Commission.
I'll second that.
There's no changes.
No.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The Historic District, Historic Commission, budgets are approved. Street lights.
I have a question. Why did it go down?
Got less lights around it, or the efficiency's been increased.
That's what I was gonna ask. Is it
That's
They're switching over to the
LED.
LED lights.
Okay, that was my,
They did shut more off, right?
no, I don't
no,
think
no,
so.
It's
Same
the
number.
energy efficiency.
Yeah, okay,
Boy, what a difference.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big difference.
It's nice to see something like that drop. Good night, Dave.
We end up getting that for free anyway. 'cause
I know we do, yeah,
Right.
Ultimately, they don't charge us.
yeah.
I'll make
Okay.
a motion that we,
I have a motion to accept the streetlights budget.
yes,
Have
I'll
a
make a
second?
motion, yep.
I'll second.
Have a second. Any other discussion on streetlights? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Streetlights budget is
I
approved.
have hydrants, but they're not on our list.
Right.
It's on the back page, the second page.
Oh, it's on the, oh, I have to turn it over. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're all allowed one mistake per meeting. I've already made mine.
And I made mine, so.
Now I've made by.
Okay.
Oh, just when I read it in the computer, it was, just went down with
Yeah.
it.
And that's for the same amount, that's the rental at the water. board
Right.
says, so
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, have a
Explain how
motion.
that works. Does the water board own the hydrant? Do we own the hydrant, or do they
The water
contract
department
out?
owns the hydrants.
Yeah,
The water board owns?
Yeah.
Right.
Water department, not
Water
board.
department,
The board,
right,
yeah.
Okay.
They're in charge of putting them in, taking them out, fixing them,
yeah, painting them. yeah.
painting them,
Flushing,
flushing them.
mainly.
Yeah.
Then the town pays a rental fee for them?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, I have a motion to accept the hydrants budget. You have a second?
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on hydrants? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Hydrants are approved. Review March 5th minutes. Everyone have a chance to review this beforehand?
I did, it looked perfect.
Thought it looked good.
Good job, Teresa.
Yes.
It was a long meeting.
It was, no typos, nothing, it looks great.
Okay, can I have a
Make a
motion?
motion that we,
Okay, I have a motion. Have a
I'll
second?
second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
That's because you weren't here.
Yeah, I missed my first meeting.
Okay. Set dates for future meeting, that's next week, same time, same place. Anything else?
that's it.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I have a motion to adjourn.
A second.
I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are officially
We are
adjourned.
adjourned.
Thank you very much for your time and patience.